You trip on a sidewalk crack, spill your coffee, and instantly think, great, now the whole world saw that. But here's the twist. They didn't. Most people were too busy worrying about themselves to notice. That mental exaggeration has a name, the spotlight effect, and it tricks us into believing everyone is watching our every move. Today, we'll break down why this illusion exists, why it happens to everyone, and how you can finally step out of the imaginary spotlight. If you like discovering the sneaky ways your brain fools you, hit like and subscribe before your mind convinces you people are judging how you click the button. So what is the spotlight effect? The spotlight effect is a psychological bias that convinces us we're at the center of everyone's attention, even when we're not. It's like walking around with an imaginary stage light beaming down on you. Spill a drink, stumble on the stairs, wear a weird shirt, your brain insists the whole room noticed and will remember forever. But in reality, most people are too distracted by their own lives to care. This idea was put to the test by psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Kenneth Savitsky in the late 1990s. They had students wear what they thought were embarrassing t-shirts, like one with Barry Manilow's face plastered on it. The wearers were convinced nearly everyone noticed and judged them. But when researchers asked observers afterward, hardly anyone had paid attention. The spotlight the participants felt shining on them didn't exist. It was just their brain exaggerating. Why does this illusion feel so convincing? It comes from our self-focus. We experience our own mistakes and quirks in vivid detail, so our brain assumes others must notice them just as clearly. That awkward pause in your sentence feels like an eternity to you, but to others, it's just a tiny blip in a conversation they'll barely recall. The spotlight effect doesn't just apply to mistakes either. It affects how we think about our appearance, performance, and even our achievements. That pimple you think is screaming for attention? No one noticed. The perfect comeback line you wish you delivered? Everyone else has already moved on. At its core, the spotlight effect is less about being self-absorbed and more about how our brains misjudge perspective. We're so tuned into our own experience that we forget everyone else is too busy tuning into theirs. So, why does this happen to everyone? The spotlight effect feels so real because it's rooted in the way every human brain is wired. We naturally see the world from our own perspective, so our minds assume others are watching us with the same intensity that we watch ourselves. Psychologists call this the egocentric bias, the tendency to overestimate how much of our thoughts, feelings, and actions matter to other people. Think about it. When you spill coffee on your shirt, you feel the heat, the sting of embarrassment, the eyes you imagine turning toward you. That memory gets burned into your mind because you lived it. But for the stranger across the room, it's just a flicker in their day, one of 100 tiny distractions they'll never recall. The disconnect is massive. Research shows this isn't just about clumsiness or bad luck. It applies to everything, from public speaking to fashion choices. Students who wear what they believe is a hideous t-shirt think half the class noticed. In reality, only a fraction even remembered. Why? Because the other students were busy worrying about their own outfits, their own stumbles, their own imaginary spotlight. Culture makes the illusion stronger. We live in societies that reward appearance, performance, and reputation. Social media intensifies it by making us think our every post, caption, or selfie is under constant analysis. But the same bias applies online as it does in person. People are mostly scanning for themselves, not dissecting your typo. The universality of the spotlight effect is almost comforting. You're not uniquely self-conscious, you're simply human. Everyone else is doing the same thing you are, stressing about how they look, sound, or act, which means your mistakes rarely even register. So why does this happen to everyone? Because evolution trained us to care about how others see us. Being noticed, accepted, and trusted used to mean survival. That deep wiring makes us hypersensitive to judgment, even when judgment isn't actually happening. The result? We all walk around under imaginary stage lights, forgetting that the audience is too busy rehearsing their own lines to notice ours. Plus, look at everyday examples. The spotlight effect creeps into everyday life more than we realize. Take public speaking. You stumble over a word and your brain screams, "Everyone caught that mistake." In truth, the audience barely registers it. They're too focused on the overall message, or sometimes just on when lunch is being served. What feels like a disaster to you is just background noise to them. Or think about walking into a party. You notice a small stain on your shirt and instantly imagine it glowing like a neon sign. You assume every set of eyes is locked onto it. Reality check. Unless you announce it, most people don't even notice. They're too busy wondering if their outfit looks good. Social media amplifies the illusion even more. You post something and later spot a typo. You cringe, certain hundreds of people saw it and are laughing at you. But algorithms move fast, and people scroll faster. Most either missed it entirely or forgot it the second they swiped past. The humiliation your brain invents simply doesn't exist outside of your head. Even in dating, the spotlight effect runs wild. You overthink every laugh, every sentence, every awkward silence. Did they notice that weird face I made? Was that joke too much? Meanwhile, the other person is usually doing the exact same thing, stressing about how they came across. Two people, both imagining they're under a spotlight, when in fact, neither is paying as much attention as they think. And it works in reverse too. That clever line you delivered in a meeting, you might think people will remember it for weeks. Odds are, it faded from their memory within minutes. The good and the bad alike get less attention than we imagine. Everyday life is packed with these illusions. The truth is, people are much less interested in us than we fear or hope. Recognizing that fact is weirdly liberating. The spotlight doesn't exist. We just invented it in our minds. So how do we outsmart the spotlight effect? The first step in beating the spotlight effect is simply recognizing it exists. Awareness weakens its grip. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "Everyone saw that mistake," remind yourself of the truth. Most people didn't notice, and the few who did already forgot. Another powerful strategy is reframing mistakes as normal. Spilling coffee, stumbling over words, or wearing mismatched socks aren't catastrophic. They're universal. When you remind yourself that everyone has these slip-ups, they stop feeling like career-ending embarrassments and start feeling like shared human moments. You can also try shifting the spotlight outward. In a social setting, pay more attention to others. Notice how they fidget, stumble, or pause awkwardly. Not to judge, but to prove a point. They're too focused on their own spotlight moments to worry about yours. Seeing this in action helps you realize how little attention people truly give to you. Mindfulness is another great tool. When anxiety spikes, "They're all staring at me." Pause, breathe, and ask, "What evidence do I actually have?" Usually the answer is none. That quick reality check punctures the illusion and calms the spiral. Finally, add humor. If you trip, laugh it off. If you forget a line, joke about it. Confidence in your flaws often makes people admire you more, not less. By owning the moment, you flip the script. The spotlight doesn't expose you, it makes you relatable. Escaping the spotlight effect doesn't mean people will never notice you again. It means you understand the attention you do get is far smaller than your brain claims. And that's freeing. It gives you permission to live, make mistakes, and keep going without feeling like the world is watching your every move. So the next time you stumble, blush, or feel that creeping sense of everyone's watching me, remember, they're not. The spotlight effect is just your brain exaggerating your importance in someone else's story. Everyone else is too busy stressing over their spotlights to notice yours. If you enjoyed this peek into how your mind tricks you, hit subscribe before you imagine the entire internet is judging you for not clicking the button.